just going to share a little bit about my experience at Nyanam, and as well as give some brief highlights from the year of 2020, just to share with you just some updates of what we've been up to, or what the organization has been up to. Yeah, so as a junior at Williams, I'm majoring in English, and so what really draws me to Nyanam is just how thoughtful they are about storytelling, and just how their work comes from a place of really deep listening. I think something I think about a lot, coming from a place like Williams, as I think about doing work as a career. Something I think about a lot is just how to be aware of my own privilege and where I'm coming from in this work, and how to be really thoughtful about where I'm coming from as a person of privilege. And I think especially in nonprofit work, it's so important to be aware of not only the work that you're doing, but also do some introspection and be aware of your own positionality and the biases and narratives and stories that you're bringing to the table as well. And I think what really makes Nyanam really special is how much of an emphasis they put on amplifying the voices of the widows themselves and their children and just the community themselves, instead of their own voices and what the organizers. I think it's really important to with that deep listening comes a really big responsibility to be thoughtful about where how we're meeting their needs and how we're addressing these issues. So just a brief reflection from my time as an intern, a lot of when we had weekly internship meetings with the research interns and communications interns, we would give some reflections from our week, and a lot of what we ended up talking about were things that surprised us or things that we hadn't expected in our work, and we'd be able to talk through those things that we hadn't originally anticipated. And I think what's really incredible about Nyanam is how they really sit with all those complexities and nuances of the work, instead of just jumping to quick fixes or things like that, which I think is really important, because when you're trying to help people or just do anything with people, you need to acknowledge them as full multifaceted, complex human beings, instead of just people in a story or things like that. And I think those values of deep listening and really thoughtful attention to the widows and really amplifying their voices really comes through in their work. So Jackie, if you just want to go to the next slide about COVID response. Yeah, so just along with the highlights of 2020, the first response for the COVID-19 pandemic was they distributed kits for 112 widows in April. And these kits contained an educational leaflet for COVID, a face mask, vegetable seeds, soap for hand hygiene, and a Bible-based hope devotional. And then they also provided a second response on International Widows Day on June 23rd. And this was mostly through Gofundme, and thanks to some really generous donors and just an incredibly supportive community, we were able to raise $3,525, so exceeding our initial goal of $3,000, and able to provide over 115 kits for widows. And these kits contained face masks for the widows' children and food supplies for 1 month. So these kits were able to provide food and personal protection for the widows and their families, as well as income for the widows who create the masks, and a celebratory gift for International Widows Day, which was especially important in the absence of any in-person celebrations. So I think this is just one really incredible example of how the responses in the work of Nyanam is really layered, and how it's not just a single response, and how thoughtful they are about meeting the widows in all these ways, not just tangible ways food ways, but also improving their mental health and emotional health, and really just holistic approaches. If you can go to the next slide. And then, yeah, another highlight from 2020 would be our micro enterprise training. Economic empowerment is also a really core part of Nyanam's work. And 94 widows were trained in 2020 for a total of 124 widows so far. And this work was largely funded by Women in the Window International, which we're really grateful for that partnership. I think that's been a really incredible part of Nyanam's work. And also a really exciting part about this was that for the first time, this training was led by 6 widows who had been trained in the November 2019 in the same course. So I think this is also a really cool example of how like incredibly sustainable Nyanam's work is, and how it's really like coming from the widows themselves, and it's like really rooted in that community. And so like regardless of if Nyanam wasn't able to continue, like that work is really sustainable and like ongoing in the Kenyan community itself. And I think it's really powerful that the voices and the stories of the widows are at the center of that work, and will be at the center of that work. Yeah, so next we're just going to, I'm gonna hand it over to Jackie in a second, and then for the rest of the event, we're going to just give some more overview. Jackie will give some more overview of Nyanam like as an organization, just more about our mission and values, and some of our goals for 2021, as well as programs for the widows and their youth. And then we're going to narrow into like our recent initiatives for mental health, which we're really excited about. Yeah, so I'll hand it over to Jackie now.
Thank you so much, Emma, for that introduction to Nyanam and to our work and your reflections on your experience this winter. From what Emma has shared, as our mission as an organization is to prepare widows to lead positive social transformation in their community. And we really see widows as leaders, first because they are the leaders of their own households, having lost their husbands. And our goal is to build their capacity, their leadership capacity, to be more effective for them within their own households, but also in the communities where they live in. And this is important to us because the widows face various cultural, economic, and social obstacles to just their own well-being, including, cultural practices that affect their mental health, affect their overall well-being. And we do believe in them to take the leadership to bring change about these oppressive realities. And Nyanam comes in as a guide, as a facilitator, as a support system for them to create the positive changes they want. Emma has already spoken about our core values, deep listening, meaningful participation, being that we really value stories, and we use stories as a foundation for or as a basis for teaching and building capacity. And then we do want to focus on justice for widows because of the various injustices they experience, and we want to help promote justice for them both at the community level through the cultural lenses, but also at government level through lobbying for them, for their inclusion in government budgets and things like that. One of the also key factors about how we approach our work at Nyanam is that a lot of our capacity building work is Bible-based. When we talk about stories, we use stories of widows in the Bible as mirror stories that widows look at, analyze critically, and then retell their own stories, share their own stories, and figure out where the similarities, where the differences, and what actions can they take to bring about positive change. We are also very much an evidence-based organization. So some of the work our interns do, for example, this winter we had 3 interns who were doing some research work with us, and the research work has actually helped us even see how broad the mental health challenges for widows are. We had a summer intern last year who looked at health support systems for widows in the whole of Africa, and one of the key results she found was that widows were experiencing a lot of mental health problems, but there was very little support mechanisms for that. Little in terms of professional support or counseling or therapy was virtually unavailable, and there were also not enough evidence for support community-based systems to support their mental health. So we do research too, and we do want to do research also to share with other organizations that are supporting widows, so we can be learning from these experiences and promoting the widows' well-being through evidence. We have programs for widows and also programs for their children, which we call the youth programs. So the programs for widows include programs in leadership, Also, and leadership has various projects in it. There's also livelihoods and economic well-being. We also look at their health and well-being. And as I've mentioned, we look at research and advocacy. For youth programs, which, one of us is gonna come up and in a bit to talk a little bit more about it. We do have, peer mentorship and youth camps and others, but Moses, who is one of our team members, a communications coordinator, will discuss more on the youth programs. So one of the things to mention about these programs is we have such a global team that is helping Nyanam as an organization to bring these programs into reality in the lives of widows. So I do want to salute our board members who are in the call, including Teddy Onserio, who you've seen, and also Grace Kinder. Adriana Mendoza is also in a call. She's a former board member who is also still very connected to Nyanam and comes to all of our events. We do have the board members, including Donna Denelli and Emi and Houghton. And then after the board leadership, Nyanam, right now we do have a staff of 3 people. So there's Clifford Ocheng in the call. There's also Moses Dianga also in the call, who will speak in just a bit, and me as the executive director. Then Moses leads our communications work, and Clifford leads our operations work. Then we do work with a lot of volunteers, and Bethany Dixon, who you've already seen and heard, is our international engagement coordinator, and she does a lot of work with all of our international volunteers, interns, donors. She does a lot of work in that area to coordinate support system on that, and leads much of our supervision of the interns who come work with us normally in the summers and in the winters. So I do want to, as Bethany has mentioned before, but I do want to thank all the interns who are on the call. They did such amazing work within a very short time, only 3 weeks, but they contributed immensely during that time, and hopefully learned a lot too about Nyanam and about also more responsible approach to development work. So for 2021, we are so hopeful with such an ambitious goal, and much of our work is influenced through our deep listening, is influenced by the needs of the widows and the things they want, and we figure out how do we support them to make those things a reality. So under leadership, this year we wanted to do inductive Bible study, voice of change, and servant leadership. And I'll just say a little bit about Voice of Change. And we do have one of our partners in the call who's going to talk a little bit about, servant leadership, inductive Bible study, because we lead it with them, and share a bit about their experience with us in terms of the partnership they have with us at Nyanam. Voice of Change, I've mentioned this, in our past calls, but this is such a unique curriculum that Nyanam has created and wants to contribute towards the empowerment of widows, not only where we are in Kenya. Right now we are reaching 358 widows in the Lake Victoria region in Kenya, but we do want this to be a tool that is available for empowerment of widows around the world. The goal of this curriculum is to amplify the voices of the widows and to create spaces where widows can have conversations that are healing about the experiences they have undergone. We actually just had a training in the past 2 weeks on a Voice of Change and also inductive Bible study. And really those were moments when you cry when you hear the stories. So there was a lot of tears in the training, but there were tears of the process of healing, and we are grateful for that. And one unique element about Voice of Change is that we do create that space for conversation and for tears and for healing. And then we ask ourselves, and by we now is the widows, what do we do to reduce or end tears about a certain issue? And they come up with social change projects that they are the ones who lead. Remember, at Nyanam, widows are leaders, and so they're the ones who lead those social change projects in the community. And so from the training we just had, one of the groups of widows who came said what they want to do is to invite a legal expert to come train them about their rights, and especially the rights of their children in their own communities, because one of the things they're experiencing now is a conflict between what our government, the laws of Kenya says. For example, if a widow gives birth to a child after the death of her husband through the cultural practices of widow remarriage, then traditionally that child would belong to the dead husband and would be given the name of the family of the first husband who died. But now legally, they are supposed to give the child the name of the living husband, or the living widow inheritor. That's sort of the term that is used in the context. So they are facing and there's a lot of issues in this. This is just one of the complex issues that they wanted to have like a legal expert come in and help them address, so they can figure out the best ways to support their children. So I'm happy to talk about some of those complexities later or in another conversation. But that is sort of part of the nature of our work, that we really face the complexity of all the issues and various issues that widows experience, and we sit with those issues, we talk with them about those issues, we look for experts and support to understand and figure out like what's the best way to navigate those difficult issues and experiences. Then we do also have programs in Livelihood. So Emma talked about micro enterprise training. We also try to provide capital through table banking, which is a group-based saving and loaning scheme. We try to support that by providing some capital so that widows would have more money to borrow from for their businesses. Last year, we did a very brilliant project on kitchen gardens that was so powerful in terms of food security in the widows' households, and also improving their nutrition and their health, both them and also their children. Under health and well-being, we have counseling, which is meant to address issues of mental health, and we also do home visits sometimes to the widows who are sort of very much in the margin, to offer the companionship and also figure out the best ways to support them. And I've already mentioned research and advocacy. So I would like to now invite Kim from Women in the Window to share just a little bit about partnership and what her reflections are on that. Kim, you're welcome.
Oh, thank you, Jackie. I feel like this this slide, our logo is too large. It should be much smaller, and yours should be much larger. But thank you so much. Yeah, we love our partnership. I want to recognize, I know you may not be able to see her right now, but perhaps when the PowerPoint is over, my colleague, Ivory Baker, who is on the call today. And Ivory is our administrative manager for Women in the Window International, and she's become acquainted with Nyanam International and Jackie Adhiombo and some others over this last year. So we're so grateful to have Ivory here as well. But yeah, just a very brief, I guess, synopsis, recommendation. So we've been partnering. We do partner with Indigenous, locally led ministries similar to Nyanam in Africa and Asia and the Middle East. And it's, as you know, Nyanam is relatively young. When did you actually officially launch, Jackie? I can't hear you, you're muted.
That was end of 2019, so pretty much 2020.
Yeah, so amazing work, as y'all can see, and everyone knows who's on this call, in such a short amount of time. But for our hearts as an international ministry that really does want to, our vision and our mission is to equip and empower women in the 1040 window and beyond to replace poverty and injustice with dignity and purpose in Christ. And it's just such a thrill to see Nyanam doing that with such excellence, all the things that have been mentioned already. The idea of us training and with the curriculum, whether it's micro business, servant leadership, the narrative inductive Bible study, and then, to release that into the hands and the hearts of the women that we train, and Nyanam being one of them. And then just to watch the deep listening, and I would even add deep learning, because I've been able to participate online in some of the trainings and just watch the widows respond with such depth of insight and they take the narrative theology of God's word and apply it immediately and really, you know, rise above. I learn from them. Okay. So this is not just mutually beneficial, but, you know, we are sitting under, you know, the wise lives of these women who have lived their life in the Word of God. Another thing I wanted to just shout out to Nyanam International and Jackie's leadership is that she doesn't compromise the Word of God in order to accomplish social change. And that, you know, again, having been in this field for decades, that is tricky. Because there are resources available, for example, through the UN and through other social change organizations. But if we're not careful, we'll compromise the very principles upon which our organizations are founded. And not only the principles upon which our organizations are founded, but the principles that are transformational for the lives of these widows. So when they see themselves in God's word, they see the multiple widows, and they hear, for example, Psalm 68:5, where God says his role, his job is to be the judge and the protector of widows. That is so empowering for them. So I just love that about you, Jackie, and I love that about Nyanam International, that you don't compromise the word of God. At the same time, you are out there looking for, you know, the next way that these widows who we love along with you can be empowered, how their lives can be transformed, how they can have, you know, these different tools. And then perhaps my last point would just be all of our partnerships, the goal is to be mutually beneficial, right? So that we bring something to the table. Our role in Women in the Window is to train leaders, and then to release our curriculum and those leaders with that curriculum to go forth and do what God tells them to do. But in this case, in a very short amount of time, we are learning, we are gaining, for example, the kitchen gardens that Jackie just mentioned, and the Voice of Change curriculum. These are things that we hope our partnership can extend to the other nations where Women in the Window is working, you know, in other parts of Africa and Asia, and then the Middle East. So yeah, just really, we are so grateful and so humbled to be able to work together and learn from Nyanam International, and then to be able to, again, invest. It's a privilege to do so. So thank you, Jackie, for the opportunity to recommend you highly.
Thank you, Kim, for those reflections. And I think that, yes, deep learning, we should just say that outright. I think that is one of the things that our interns also like picked up from the beginning, that even I and Bethany can also mention that they are transforming us. They are transforming our own perceptions about various experiences they're having. They are challenging the literature, the published literature about their own experiences, and it's definitely, deep learning is definitely part of the nature of our work, which we really enjoy, because at the end of the day, they are empowering us again in that process with like the knowledge and the experiences. And I think for me, it's definitely a transformational experience. And I think that for all of the people in the team and our interns, that's sort of the mutual feeling that we have when we engage with the widows. So thank you for that reflection, Kim. And so before actually I go back to the presentation, I know that there's another video I want to share, and I hope that the microphone will work, because I really would love for you to hear this. And before we do that, I would like to invite our communications coordinator, Moses Dianga, who just joined our team in actually this month of February. So he just joined the team and jumped into helping with preparation for this event. And Moses, welcome. He's gonna share a little bit just about his own story, why he's coming to Nyanam, and as also a youth and somebody who's also grown up as a child of a widow, some of the ways he sees us as an organization supporting widows' children through our youth programs. Moses, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us for this important event at Nyanam. As you heard earlier, my name is Moses Dianga. I just joined as the communications coordinator. And what inspired me to join, I think, was seeing the incredible work that Jackie has been doing with the widows, growing up as the son of a widow myself, and having that deep understanding of what widows go through in their everyday lives. Just a bit of a background about me. So I lost my dad when I was in grade 3. And the first things I saw when people came to the funeral, they weren't looking to, mourn with us about the loss of our dad. Everybody came and they started accusing my mom that, she was the one that caused the death of my father. And that was really hard on her, having to deal with a loss and false accusations about her killing my dad, while my dad was just sick and his time came and he passed on. But that wasn't the end of it. After the burial of my dad, all the brothers-in-law of my mother, all the brothers of my father, they came in, took properties, they took cars, grabbed land, and we had to be thrown out. We had to be thrown out of our family property, and we had to move and start life elsewhere. So seeing that the pain that my mom was going through, having to deal with the loss of a husband and losing everything at the same time, I saw the pain and the anguish in her face each time she tried, because the only thing she had to take care of the children left behind was gone. And at the point of my dad's death, she was a housewife, so she had to really adapt to the new ways of just providing for the children and taking them to school. And that wasn't very easy. And so what normally happens in the life of the orphan left behind, nobody wants to see their mother struggle. She's worried about you, but you're also worried about her. She tries to project strength, but in her face, she can't hide it. You can see the suffering and the struggles. And so I grew up experiencing all that firsthand. And so seeing what Jackie has been doing with the widows at Nyanam, I was inspired. So I had been following Nyanam for a year. And late last year, my mother was diagnosed with cancer and she didn't make it through. And her passing just got me thinking, like, how best can I help contribute to help widows across the world? How can I be able to give other people what I wasn't able to give my mother? So that experience led me to Nyanam. And normally when as a child of a widow or as a son of a widow, as you grow older, you begin to feel the pain that your mother goes through. And what that does to you is, you don't want to see her suffer. You want to help in some sort of way. And when you are not able to, there are moments that you want to help and you can't. And you try to ask yourself, like, how best can I help my mother? And in the process of asking yourself too many questions, when you're not able to solve the problems, you end up sliding into depression. You want to belong. Sometimes there are days I have missed my father. I've wondered, like, how would life look like if he was here? And normally at that particular moment, you are always looking for someone to share with, to talk to, or to advise you, or to take you through, what does it mean to be a boy or to be a man as you grow older. And you are in that moment, and all the father figures that you see around you, you can't even approach them because they are the the same oppressors of your mother. So you'd really like to connect, but you saw what they did. And as a result of that, they're not your option. And so for many young people, you grow up lonely, you don't know who to talk to, you don't know where you belong. And that alone can lead you to, depression. You engage in antisocial behavior. And sometimes you end up in drugs and crime. And that's why, for me, joining Nyanam and knowing firsthand what the widows go through, what the children of the widows go through, gives me the conviction and the inspiration that as we take care of our widows, their children are equally struggling with the pain of seeing their mothers struggle and the loss of their fathers and the lack of opportunities. Like right now, unemployment is really high in Kenya, and having to struggle through life, sometimes even food is an issue for some widows, let alone school fees. So that means not all the children's widows are able to afford school. So what that means is there's a higher percentage, there's a high chance that within each household, there are young people that were not able to join to even get the most basic of education. And that kind of reduces their chance at life. And with that, then as Nyanam, then I feel like we have the responsibility both to the widows and to the young people. And that's why we are working to, provide that help, create a space for young people, the children of the widows, to, belong and get empowered for them to have a better shot at life. So that's why I joined. That's why this work is very inspiring. And I just want to thank everyone that's been supporting in any way that you can. And we hope to continue having these conversations. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's Moses. Moses just really joined us, and I think when we interviewed him, we were swallowing our tears, or like when he shared just his motivation to come to Nyanam, and he does connect very deeply to the experiences of the young people. I know our interns learned this in winter, that one of the issues widows' children were suffering from, especially the boys, is depression. And we really hope that this year we can be able to address that issue too. So we do, for the widows' children, we do have programs in peer mentorship, and it's really led by the youth themselves. So the beautiful faces you're seeing here are members of the Youth Advisory Council that they created themselves last year to help guide Nyanam's work on supporting widows' children. So most of them are widows' children themselves, and so they're the ones helping us figure out how to support them. And so these are some of the things we hope to support them with this year: peer mentorship. They want to do some talent exhibitions, understanding their own potentials and how they can use it for their own economic empowerment, and counseling also. So I know Moses has shared about mental health for widows children, and just from his perspective what he went through. And I just wanted to share a little bit about mental health for the widows themselves. I do have a video, so I really hope this works, but if it doesn't work, it's a video of one of the widows who also just shared with us her perspective on mental health issues. One of the things she also did in that conversation was just talk about the connection between the economic well-being of a widow and also her mental health. Do offer counseling at an individual level. So we do have 2 counselors who in a month, each of them can counsel up to 16 widows individually. And so we have like 32 widows counseled on a monthly basis at individual level. Then all of our widows are organized in leadership circles, each that has maybe around 10 to 40 widows. So our counselors also do group counseling. And then they also do telephone counseling, sometimes to set up meetings for counseling itself, or to follow up on a counseling issue that they had, or to be able to reach out and support widows who maybe need immediate like emergency support, but they're in a distant place. So mental health counseling, that's one of the areas. And the second area that we wanted to focus on as a fundraiser connected to this event is how we support the economic well-being of the widows. So, when the women are depressed, when they are, feeling stressed and having anxiety, it does affect their ability to do the other work that can lead to their productivity. But we've also seen how Moses has talked about disinheritance that widows experience, and how that snatches them the resources, the assets they have to be able to put together and provide for income and provide for their families. So we wanted to be able to provide support for the table banking activities that I mentioned earlier that they have in each leadership circle. And with Women in the Window, Kim talked about micro enterprise. We've done that training with them. Emma shared about that, and we're planning to even do more with the new widows who've joined Nyanam as of beginning of this year. But we wanted to really connect that business skills training with the access to some capital that they can use to start the businesses or to scale up some of the businesses they have. And in addition to supporting capital for their business, we did want to provide a fund for each leadership circle. So these funds will help them with the financial management of the resources that they have in table banking, but also can support like communications that as Nyanam we have with them and the counselors can have with them when they're meeting in the group. So I now will transition to Bethany, who can share with us like how to get involved with these and other projects at Nyanam. Bethany.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And thank you again to Moses for sharing your story. Moses, I don't know if you saw in the chat, but several people were saying thank you so much. That was just a huge honor to hear from you. And I hope that we'll have more chance to hear from all of you guys as we move on, have more story time or more events. So it's just really amazing to hear your perspective and your experience. So thank you. Yeah, so as Jackie mentioned, there are several ways that we can all get involved from all over the world. So if you're joining from Kenya or if you're joining from anywhere else, there are a lot of ways to get involved. And so on this slide, you can see a couple of the main ways. As Jackie just mentioned, there are options for financial support, which I'll talk more about in a minute. And then as you saw with Women in the Window, there are also options for organizational partnerships in various ways. And then there's also a great option for virtual volunteering or interning. So all of those are things that we have really gained a lot from our international family. And we've just so appreciated that. So Jackie, if you want to go to the next slide, I'll talk a bit more about the financial support first. For today, as we said, our main focus for today and for this main project that we're working on is the mental health initiatives, which includes the economic empowerment. So for table banking, $13 will provide the capital for one widow, and most of the leadership circles are larger, either 10 to 40 widows. And so we are aiming to raise money for all of those leadership circles. And our whole goal overall is to, with all of these things together, is to raise $10,000 toward this initiative. And we've actually set up a GoFundMe that we'll be sharing the link for that. And I'll say a bit more about ways to give in a minute. Then also individual counseling sessions. If you would like to support one widow's access to counseling, We have two absolutely amazing counselors who have been already volunteering their time for Nyanam for years. Both of them are trained as counselors. They're also trained as pastors. And in the Nyanam context, as you have probably gotten from this call, a large number of the widows do come from a Christian background. And so having a spiritual aspect to that and a Christian aspect to that for them is important. So the counselors can provide that as well for those who want that. So if you're interested in supporting a widow's access to individual counseling or a whole leadership circle to group counseling, which is something that they have already really benefited from and said that they really appreciate. So the counselors meet with the whole leadership circle and talk with them and kind of walk them through some of the challenges that they may be facing either as a group or maybe one individual in the group needs support and they talk about together how they can support them. So that's also a really powerful way to do it. And then, as Jackie said, phones are a really big need right now for the various technological things that need to be done, both scheduling the counseling, sometimes actually holding virtual counseling, especially now during COVID, and then just making everything happen. So also getting ways for the leadership circles, the widows who lead each leadership circle to also have a phone so that they can contact the counselors, they can contact each other to arrange their meetings, etc. So that's something that we'd like to provide for now, for this focus. And in the longer term, we're going to be having another call in about 6 weeks or so with a bit more detail, and we're also hoping to get some more computers for the team. As you could hear when Moses was sharing, it was hard to hear him because we at the moment are a little low on technology overall for the team, and it will just make so many more things possible to get that as well. So for right now, we're focusing on phones because that I think will be the most impactful right away, but we're also aiming to get a little bit more technology. So if anybody has ideas in that area as well, we're definitely open to that. But yeah, so these 4 areas are the main ones that we're fundraising for right now. And as you can see on this slide, and is very, very exciting, we have a matching pledge from Google up to $10,000 US, which is unbelievable. Many, many, many thanks to Agnes for making that happen, and for Teddy also for coordinating with Agnes. Agnes works at Google and has been helping set this up. So if however much you can give, we know that the pandemic is a hard time for everyone. So if this is not a time for you to be able to give, that we completely understand. But any small amount will be doubled, which is very, very exciting. So we will be sharing the GoFundMe link, and it will also be on our website and on all our social media platforms as well. And of course, we'll update you as soon as we are able to buy some of these things or start the counseling sessions. Yeah, we'll update you on how that's going. Yeah, Jackie, I can't remember, do I have another slide on this, or was that the last one? If it is, I'll just say a bit more.
Yeah, that was the last.
Okay, perfect. So here you can see a wonderful picture of the community, not the whole community, of course, because as Jackie said, we have a large number of widows, over 300. But this is just an example of some of the community that is created through these widows coming together. And we're so grateful to have the whole international community that comes alongside us. Again, another big shout out to the interns that were with us in January, and to the board all over the world, and to the amazing team in Kenya and partners in Women in the Window. It's just been amazing to work with you. And if you're interested in getting involved in any way that I mentioned, especially if you'd like to do any virtual volunteering or just get to know more about the organization, I'll be putting my email address in the chat. It's just bethany.dixon@nyanam.org. Very simple. So you're more than welcome to reach out to me. We're hoping to do a few more calls in the next while. And the next formal, bigger call will be more details about fundraising, because two good pieces of news is that for US donors, we are almost done with the 501c3 application. Huge shout out to Teddy and to everyone else who has been working on that. We have some pro bono lawyers through Sidley who are helping us with that, which is amazing. So soon we will have a more formalized way for you to give with tax deductible donations. We also, for anybody in Canada, we also have set up through KBF Canada that's almost done as well. So on our next call, we'll be sharing more about that for those who want to become monthly donors or give on a larger scale. So for this GoFundMe, right now, that's just a one-time fundraiser, and that's the one that's matched. And so we'd love for you to give, but at this point, those are not yet tax deductible. Thank you so much, Teddy, for putting that in there. So Teddy just put my email address in the chat. So everybody is free to reach out to me. You can also find that on the website, which is nyanam.org. And yeah, we'd really love to talk to you more. And we're so excited to have Moses on the team, so he'll be more in touch with everyone as well as the head of communications. Yeah. Okay, Jackie, back over to you.
Yeah, I think thanks Bethany, and thanks everyone. I think we are just like 3 minutes past our end time, but I do want to open this time for questions and just comments and sharing from like everyone who came. We are so grateful you chose to spend this evening, this mid-morning, this afternoon, wherever you are with us, and we are really grateful for everyone's prayers and support and encouragement for this really important and building work that we're doing together. So questions and comments.
Hi, I'll go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good morning from New York, and I guess good afternoon to you, or good evening. Happy Valentine's Day. My name is Heather Ibrahim Leathers, and I'm the founder and president of Global Fund for Widows. We are the largest organization globally empowering widows around the world. And we think in our network now have empowered nearly 20,000 widows, mostly by building banks for them, similar to the SACCOs and table banking that you are doing. We have 37 banks now in Kenya, and are also in the same vein working not only just to economically empower, but to legally empower. And I was actually I stepped off of this call for a moment because I was addressing Minister Kobia, Kenya's Minister of Gender, at a fundraiser that she's attending, or an event that she's attending that is dedicated to empowering widows. And they had some 300 people attending, including several other ministers and the United Nations. So it's exciting to have momentum being built in Kenya for this movement. And I think that Kenya is definitely leading the world in this cause. And so I congratulate you. We just finished our 2-day global summit on Thursday, where we had partners from around the world discussing different various issues on widowhood. In that summit, we shared with the world a couple of things. There's the Alliance for the Last Woman First, which is a global alliance of about 100 grassroots organizations like yourselves that are all working towards the issue of widowhood. And there's a link that we could provide you that would allow you to join the alliance so that you could also add to the voice of widows around the world and your experiences from the field. There's also links to allow you to join the United Nations. And there's about 4 different ways that we can guide you through engaging with the United Nations. And I think it would be very useful for you to do that as well. All of them do not cost anything, but it's an opportunity for you to, again, be able to strengthen our collective voice and join that voice, and also to advocate on a global level, so that we can bring continued resources and continued attention to the issue of widowhood. So I salute the work that you're doing. Congratulations. God bless you. And thank you for inviting me to this session.
Thank you so much, Heather. Yeah, I know we will be having like another conversation with you later to learn more about the banks and what can we learn about that can strengthen the table banking program for the widows in the Lake region. So looking forward to chatting with you more about that, and also thank you for the recommendations on really joining the Global Voice. One of the materials we have our interns read when they come in is the Lumba Foundation report, where they just see, globally the situation of widowhood, and then they narrow it down to where we are. And I think that those connections are important. But if you want to say something on this, but this is like in the realm of all of our international engagement. And I know that you probably are so excited to hear this.
Yes, I'm absolutely thrilled. I'm just looking forward to further conversations. And yeah, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing and for joining us. This is really exciting to get to hear about that. Yeah, thank you.
No, it's great. And also, I think I'm not sure if I'm allowed to tell you, but I think I've heard a rumor that Minister Kobia will be spending International Widows Day in Kisu County. So I think it's a rumor. Don't quote me. Don't tell anyone. It's a secret, I think. But it shows you that there's attention, high level attention being placed on this. Good work. Put your head down. Keep working hard, and good things will come. So thank you. I look forward to working with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So kind of along the lines, as other people are thinking of questions or comments, if you have any, along the lines of what Heather shared, something that Nyanam is very lucky to have is these partnerships and individual donors, which we are just so grateful for. And another area that we are hoping to grow in is applying for grants and more formalized funding as the organization grows and the work grows and more widows are joining. So something I'd like to invite you to do, speaking of if you're interested in any kind of being involved besides potentially supporting yourself or directly, is if you know of grants that you think would be relevant, please do let us know, because that is some kind of a new area. We have definitely applied for grants before, but we're looking to expand that. So if anybody has ideas, feel free to send them to Jackie or myself, and we would love to hear about those as well. Also, if there are other things you would like to hear from Nyanam, an idea that came to mind to me today during our call was that maybe we could do some story time calls where we just have one person from the team or one widow there to just share some stories, because hearing part of Moses' story was so powerful. So if anybody would be interested in that or any other kind of direct engagement that you would like to hear or engage, please do let us know and we can arrange that as well.
I would like to hear Teddy's voice before. I think everybody else would love to hear Teddy's voice before we end. So everyone, Teddy is our board chair, and we are so grateful for his leadership and support, for me in the work and for all of us as a team. Teddy.
Thanks, Jackie, and thanks, Bethany. Thanks to everyone who has made this possible. To all the interns and the staff at Nyanam. Really appreciate the work that you're doing. As I always tell you and tell all the volunteers, ours is to support, but at the end of the day, you're the people at the front lines, and we really, we're just adding some gas to this engine that you are. So really appreciate that. And to everyone who has made some time to join us, I really appreciate you as well for taking this time late in the evening or early in the morning, and for listening to the work that Nyanam is doing. As Bethany and Jackie have said, we really are appreciative of any donations that will come our way, and even more than that, sometimes people may not donate, but spreading the word to your friend, to your family, is always helpful as well, because sometimes you never know where we can get support from. So we really appreciate that. I've worked with Jackie and since college days, and long before Nyanam was Nyanam, when she had started other initiatives in her village, and it has really been transformational. There's a lot that she has done that we cannot even address, and I think this is the most formalized we have been as Nyanam Widows Rising, and we are now taking even more steps to formalize ourselves further. So we hope that as we close 2021, we'll be operating as a fully legitimate, non-profit organization that can operate at the global level and receive donations from all over and partner with the bigger organizations. That's my key focus. And as a board, we are really keen on widening our net of supporters, because Jackie has really exhausted, I think, her personal network. So it's time now to grow. It's time for the eagle to get out of the nest and really fly. So thank you all again, and I wish you good rest of the day or good night wherever you are.
Yeah, thanks for that, Teddy. Bethany, I don't know if we wanted to share the link to GoFundMe, or we'll just share that with the with everyone later who has come. And as Teddy has said, definitely when you receive it, think about other people in your network that you think would really want to see this transformational work continue, and share with them. We are really grateful and thankful to God for really our lives and the work itself, and just the support we already have from all of you and everyone. And we think at the end of 2021 we'll be so amazed at what we have accomplished together. So I'm grateful to all of you. And Bethany, if there's no any other question, it's already 14 minutes past our end time. So I would love to say asante sana, which is thank you in Swahili, and kwaheri, which is goodbye in Swahili.
Yes, sorry, Jackie. One really quick thing is that Ella's asking about the links of the videos. Okay. Yeah, Jackie, I don't know if you want to just put the links in the chat. I also just put the link for the GoFundMe in the chat as well, for those who want to maybe open that, keep that open. And of course, we'll be putting that same link on our social media and website right after this call. But it is there. Many thanks to Grace from our board who set up that GoFundMe, and Jackie and Moses who also worked on that. Yeah, so now you can have those links as well for the videos to watch, because they are beautiful. They're really, really well done. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lynn. So glad you joined, and hopefully we can have more conversations about all the global partnership work. I know, yeah, so Lynn does amazing things, so maybe she can say something about just the work she does, and people are just free to leave anytime now. But Lynn, if you wanted to, I think I really liked the work you are doing in the UK for empowerment of widows.
Thank you very much, Jackie. It's I'm Lynn Everson. I'm a trustee at Widows' Rights International. We're based in the UK, but we're doing a lot of work in Tanzania in particular, fundraising and helping widows and their children again on the ground. And also we're trying to involve the church more. I'm very interested in what Kim was saying, because I think the church and their influence on cultural practices is vital. So that's something that we're looking at the moment.
Wow, beautiful. I don't know if Maria is in the call, but Maria was one of our interns this winter, and that's one of the areas she highlighted that we need to look at. She even left the internship having a list of questions that Nyanam should explore when it comes to the role of the church and how church is supporting widows, and also how widows are experiencing their spirituality and how they see their spirituality affecting even their mental health and their overall well-being, and trying to understand these things. Lynn, I feel that would be a good place to connect and figure out how to work together. Kim is also very interested in that question. I know we've talked a little bit about it, so we will explore it further and for the good of and the well-being of the widows. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's really all from my end. And so go ahead, support the work and share it as widely as you can with your friends. And thank you so much for taking your time for being with us now. And we do look forward, Kim, to participating in Women in the Window event. Lynn, if you want to invite us, Bethany or I or somebody in our team to some of the events, we are happy to join those and take part. And we look forward to seeing you again in some other form. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Moses. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.